I must take your fingerprints for the investigation.
Okay, Jack Norm.
Thanks. Walter Jones was murdered. So we stop joking and respond correctly to my questions. Everyone got that? What did Walter Jones tell you regarding his estate?
Jones had a lot of money, Jack Norm. But no one knows into whose hands it will go.
The autopsy is categorical. Walter Jones died from a bullet wound in his back, and not as a result of his fall from the Tortoise Belvedere. With all the doubts stemming from the circumstances, Baena has nothing to do with the death. Nevertheless, I would love to have your point of view on this.
It is clear Baena never killed Walter Jones. Only an idiot could have thought that.
What were you doing at the hour of the crime, around 11 p.m.?
I passed the whole evening in my cabin waiting for my daughter.
With regard to Walter Jones, everyone plays the victim. But some people didn't refrain from trying to make him fall from his perch.
Walter Jones was not crazy. He was old, that's all.
Did Walter Jones wear this chain around his neck?
Yes, I think this is Walter Jones's. I remember he always wore this necklace with a key.
Colio, I know that yesterday Baena did not stay in your company all evening. Can someone confirm what you were doing at the time?
No, Jack. But I know that I did not come near Walter Jones the whole evening. That should be enough for you.
What do you think of Christina?
Christina is a very beautiful woman, Jack Norm. Christina is tall, strong, vigorous, and supple as a creeper.
What can you tell me about Marco?
Old Jones had the blessing of the gods with Marco. Marco is the grandson of Old Jones, and the name of the Jones family is honored by Marco, Jack Norm.
Do you know if Walter Jones was wearing something around his neck on the night of his death?
That evening? I do not know, Norm.
Do you know how to use a rifle?
No, I do not need a rifle, Jack Norm. There is nothing to hunt here. There are only gulls, and they are not good.
Do you know who in this tower knows how to use a gun?
I saw Lorenzo shoot at the gulls. He is very good at it. He brought one down almost each time. But he is not the one who killed Walter Jones, that is for sure.
Did you see anyone in the library the evening of the murder?
My cabin was very far from Old Jones's library, Jack Norm. It is still today.
Thank you for the information. The ocean has covered the whole island. I must take your fingerprints for the investigation.
Good. Well done, man. What do you want me to say?
Thanks. Henceforth, I have a mandate and I represent the law. So no more evasive responses. Sorry, but I understand nothing about architecture. I would like to have some things in this sketchbook explained.
It's best to ask the architect, don't you think, Norm? After all, he's the person in charge of the problem. He's the one who can inform you.
What did Walter Jones tell you regarding his estate?
The old miser told us we were going to inherit his empire, the Jones Company. I wasn't expecting it at all, and I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't thrilled.
I heard that there's a chapel somewhere. Do you know where it is?
I don't know anything about it. Like you, I knew of its existence from reading my grandfather's speech, but it didn't say where it could be found.
The autopsy is categorical. Walter Jones died from a bullet wound in his back, and not as a result of his fall from the Tortoise Belvedere. With all the doubts stemming from the circumstances, Baena has nothing to do with the death. Nevertheless, I would love to have your point of view on this.
What are you saying? They shot the old man? Wow, we're swimming in a real crime novel now, Norm. And I bet you're going to conduct an investigation and unmask the guilty party, right?
What were you doing at the hour of the crime, around 11 p.m.?
I played poker with Martin and Christina between 9:45 p.m. and 11:15 p.m. And of course, I had a row with my wife, who made a scene because of it. She hates the game. I asked myself how I can still tolerate her. Sonia and Martin, they fought over something petty. I can't remember what it was. In any case, Sonia was really tense. She left to calm down a little. And it was her, I stress it was her, who came back for our grandfather. She was beside herself with worry that he should be out in such horrible weather. We discussed it and said that we better check out where the old guy was. It was 11:30 p.m. and it was then that Nolan burst into the room telling us that our grandfather was dead.
With regard to Walter Jones, everyone plays the victim. But some people didn't refrain from trying to make him fall from his perch.
Oh, you know I didn't take part in this thing wholeheartedly. Sonia and Martin had their reasons, and I had mine.
Well, if you had thought you would inherit, it seems to me that this is in a little danger.
Helping for grandfather's estate is like betting on a bad hand. One has little chance of winning. I'm a gambler. I counted on it anyway. I shouldn't have.
What did you get in return for rescinding that Walter Jones be put under psychiatric care?
Well, it was our only chance to recoup our grandfather's estate. Well, as I said, my grandfather brought Sonia and me together in his office to sign this paper. He made an impossibly huge fuss about how he had fired all his staff and how it was a call for help. He wanted us to take care of him and pamper him. Us, his cherished grandchildren. See what kind of guy he is? We asked to see his will, but what do you think? What play acting when I think back. He was a big bluffer, the old man. He wouldn't have been bad at poker.
Ah, well, Billy, I had this impression that you shook a stick at a beehive, and that you dragged your family into this murky business.
Well, it's true, I confess. I made a real mess of things. And then after all, it doesn't surprise me that my miserly grandfather hated me to the end. Nevertheless, I trusted him. I thought he was going to help me out, or that his estate would help me later. And then the old jerk didn't lift his little finger when Grigory Pavliev, the insane mafia don, contracted someone to deliver my head. You're from the police. You have to get me out of this situation, Norm. Otherwise, I'm a dead man.
Walter Jones was not fond of Clara.
I dragged a lot of people I love into hot water. Gambling, drugs, all that. I know. My grandfather was pitiless towards me. He never gave a single cent to save me from misery. But still, he could have spared my wife and my father-in-law. But that's the way it is. I'm a good-for-nothing, and Walter Jones was the worst of sharks.
I didn't think Jones was such a jerk. And his accomplice, Nolan, doesn't seem to be much better.
Inspector, I know that my father-in-law has some major health issue, and that it's all my fault. My wife is angry at me. It's to be expected. But Walter Jones could have arranged everything just by lifting his little finger. He preferred to take advantage of the situation by preying on my father-in-law's business. He's the king of jerks, and his acolyte is more or less the same, Norm.
Why did Walter Jones talk about Sonia's desire for revenge?
The truth is that Sonia is the bravest of us all. She really has courage, if you see what I'm trying to say. The grandfather always knew this. He was afraid of her and respected her. Sonia didn't fall for it. She was the only one who fought back. You understand?
Did Walter Jones wear this chain around his neck?
Well done, Inspector. That's the chain.
This family photo is very touching. I imagine that you learned to shoot because you have a gun in your hands?
Oh yeah, I remember. Sometimes it was really fun. I was a kid and the lions and the elephants and all that. It suited me fine. But hunting? No. Really not my thing. You had to walk for hours and hours to finally come face to face with a beast that wanted nothing to do with you. My grandfather took me for a moron because I was no good at it.
It seems that you have financial problems, Billy.
No, some small gambling debts, basically.
According to your sister Sonia's declaration, you participated with her in the theft of some items that Hubert de Noland had just found in the safe.
I have nothing to hide. It's Noland who stole the key to my grandfather's safe and all that the safe contained. I know this because I was there. Sonia and I had decided to go in search of the old man, and it was then that we saw Noland come back to the tower. The guy was dripping wet. We were already puzzled, and even more so when we saw him take the elevator to my grandfather's floor. On the one hand, we were reassured because we were convinced that the old man was out of trouble in his apartment, and on the other hand, we were also puzzled by Noland. What in the hell was he doing at such an unearthly hour at the old man's? So we decided to have a closer look, and that's how we discovered that the old man was not in, and that Noland was busy burgling his safe. The attorney was checking out a box to be used for my grandfather's marriage with the young native of the island. We found him, and Noland panicked. He mumbled some bullshit. Needless to say, we didn't believe it for a second. My sister reacted very swiftly, and she took back the items from Noland. If not, he would surely have swiped them. There you have the full story, Inspector. I simply accompanied my sister, Sonia.
I was told that you are a gambling addict of sorts.
It's not a secret for anyone. Gambling is stronger than I am.
Marco says that your childish irresponsibility is painful for your family. What is he talking about?
I love my brother, but he ought to mind his own business. It's true that I owe some money to my wife's father, but that doesn't concern him. I've never asked anything of my brothers and sisters.
If Noland is to be believed, the young Baina literally cast a spell on Walter Jones. What do you know about this?
I don't know anything about it at all. With grandfather, I didn't speak about most things, and certainly not about sex.
What do you think of Christina?
I don't know Christina well, but when this woman walks into a room, you can feel the general level of adrenaline rise, that's for sure.
What can you tell me about Marco?
Marco, he was always grandfather's pet. Even when we were children, he was the favorite. And the old man helped him hugely in his political success.
Do you know if Walter Jones was wearing something around his neck on the night of his death?
I didn't pay a lot of attention, but I remember that my grandfather always wore a small chain. Ever since he built this tower, I always saw him wearing a chain. Of that, I'm sure.
Do you know who in this tower knows how to use a gun?
On that point, Inspector, I haven't got the foggiest.
Did you see anyone in the library the evening of the murder?
Listen, I already told you everything about this. In the end, Inspector, your questions are exhausting.
I understand.